Welcome to the creepy parlor, where we delve into the dark side with an undercurrent of light-hearted fun. Our discussions will explore gothic, macabre, or creepy topics. The first Tuesday of every month, we will host a haunted happy hour where you can join us for a group conversation that focuses on ghosts, weird events, urban legends, and more. Here at the Creepy Parlor, our subject matter may be spooky, but our spirits are high. You can catch the Creepy Parlor every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on WLFE DB Radio.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Creepy Parlor. I am so excited that you're joining me this evening. Those of you who know me know how much I enjoy going and visiting cemeteries. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming my guest this evening, Miss Brenda Sullivan. Brenda has been studying gravestones. She's been studying and presenting on the art, the history, the symbolism of gravestones for more than 30 years. A lifelong Massachusetts resident, she has spent many hours in graveyards all over the world. An education in art history and restoration led to the creation of the Gravestone Girls, from a hobby to a full-time vocation. This is so exciting for me, guys. I'm totally going to fangirl because I absolutely love Brenda's art. Gravestone Girls' mission is to keep our dead alive through educational lectures, tours, classes, and creation of art replicas of New England gravestones. Annually, Brenda works with many libraries, historical societies, genealogy groups, museums, and other institutions nationwide to raise awareness and teach residents what history lies beneath their own backyards. And just to give you guys a little bit of an overview of the Gravestone Girls, Gravestone Girls create replicas of New England tombstones in the form of wall hangings, magnets, coasters, mirrors, pinboards, and more. Cast directly from originals, still on cemetery landscapes, their art is a piece of history in your hand. Keeping our dead alive through lectures, tours, classes, and art, they work nationwide, raising cemetery awareness and teaching citizens the history buried under their feet. Well, I hope that you're as excited as I am, and I'm going to bring Brenda in here to talk with us. Welcome.
Wow, what a fabulous introduction. Fangirl.
I'm totally going to fangirl out.
That's so great.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight and joining our guests. We already have quite a few comments going on over here.
Ooh, good.
My friend Natalie, she's fangirling too.
Yay!
So welcome. Let's get started. So let's see. We talked about quite a few things on Saturday. What got you started? What got you interested in gravestones?
So I grew up in Massachusetts, so you can't swing the proverbial dead cat without, coming across a cemetery, a colonial New England cemetery. And they were a place that I spent a lot of time. Really, my grandfather died when I was little, and my grandmother came to live with us when I was 5. So in the tradition of that generation, we went to the cemetery all the time, every week. So there was an old colonial section that I was allowed to run amok. It's safe in the cemetery. There's a few trip hazards, but no problem. It's a safe place to let a kid burn off some energy. And my house was always interested in art and history and antiques. And my mother was an antique dealer. My father did her restoration work. So I always grew up around this stuff. So put all of that together and you've got the makings of a gravestone girl. It's a natural part of my DNA, sort of.
Well, it definitely comes through in your art, which we will get to shortly. Do you have a favorite graveside, gravestone, graveyard, a favorite graveyard that you've been to?
Ooh, that's
a complicated question.
It is, right?
I'm not going to get into the semantics of cemeteries and graveyards, but
it's okay. For this intents and purposes, we really do use the term interchangeably nowadays, but there was definitely a difference between a cemetery and a burial ground. We don't start using the word cemetery until Mount Auburn Cemetery gets established in this country in in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1831. No, if you have cats or you have kids and you get asked what your favorite is, it's impossible. Same thing with cemeteries. I mean, sort of the last one I was in is just it's always my answer. Yeah, the last one I saw was my favorite. I will say though, putting together some of the photos of the New Jersey cemeteries, because of talking to you tonight, being in New Jersey, it made me go back to when I was at Gravestone Camp in 2012, and we were in northeastern New Jersey for the conference, and we saw some really fabulous cemeteries there. So getting to dig back through those photos brought back a lot of great memories.
We'll talk about camp shortly.
I have yet to meet a cemetery I don't like, so.
It's like me with my ghost tours. When people ask me what my favorite story is, I'm like, they're all my favorite.
All of them. Well, they're all unique.
They are.
And the gravestones are the same way. Gravestones tell each one, their art and the written context on the face of them tells the story, and they're all different.
It absolutely. And I think that one of the things that's so striking about the older gravestones is just how decorative they were. Especially given the technology of the time. Today we can
chisel. Mallet and chisel all by hand. And that includes not just carving them and putting them on the landscape. That also includes getting them out of the ground, getting the original geological material out of the ground, hauling it away somewhere to then be carved and then made into the grave, shaped and made into the gravestone, carved with the art and the lettering, and then put up on the landscape. All by hand. All by hand.
And even just the transporting of the stone, that must have been so difficult.
The theory is that for the colonial stuff in New England, we're good Yankees, first of all. The material was local. So I've heard it said that there was not any farther than 15 miles away, like the quarry areas. I really think they were actually closer than that. We have the colonial stones around here are made out of slate. And we've got slate pits all over the place, very, very local. Sandstone was also used that came out of the Connecticut River Valley. So if you took Massachusetts and you split it in half, from central to eastern Massachusetts, it's predominantly slate gravestones of the colonial period because it was close by. If you start moving out to the western part of Massachusetts and down into Connecticut from the western part of Massachusetts, the material predominantly becomes sandstone, again, because it's a local material. They've got to get it out of the ground. They got to put it on the horse and cart. They got to drag it back to where it's going to be either sold to the people that would do the carving, or used by the people that quarried it to make the gravestones because they were carvers as well. I really think in that time frame, 15 miles is a long way to go.
Oh, absolutely.
To get stuff, when it's probably a whole lot closer than that.
And what a thing too, that it must have been a significant amount of an investment for a family.
Absolutely. Particularly where we don't have modern medicine. You don't have any of the kind of medicine that we have certainly today, but even we don't really start seeing the rise of medicine as science and instead of art until we really come to the late 1800s. And then it really takes off when we come into the 20th century. So you've got people dying all the time. Death was a very, very common part of their existence. So yeah, you know what? Maybe somebody dies and you don't know they're going to go. You don't have the money for the stone. It's hard sometimes it's hard or easy, I guess, to get a feel for what the gravestones cost, because you can sometimes when they come up out of the ground, from the freeze and thaw cycle here, a lot of times you'll find either maker's marks or test carving, and sometimes they're inventory numbers, or they might actually be prices as well. And you could also find out prices paid by looking at probate records. For a certain person's estate, if it got probated, is there a recording in that estate record for payment to somebody for a gravestone or payment to somebody for carving a gravestone? So you start to get a feel for what that is, and it could be $3, $5, $7, $10 or more, and that's a lot of money for the daily life of most people in the late 1600s and into the 1700s.
Especially with the amount, like you said, the amount of people that were dying.
Very common, daily occurrence, normal to know somebody that died at any point in time regularly, very regularly. And that's what all that imagery on the stones are for from the colonial period. That's what it's all out there for. It is a picture language. I call it a scared straight program that is meant to talk to the population ad nauseum about mortality and morality. You had one immortal soul, and your job as a mortal was to keep that immortal soul clean by the actions that you did while you were here, because you were going to die. There's no doubt about it.
At any given moment.
Never a time. And your responsibility was to make sure that soul could get off to the next world by the work that you did here. So they did it in pictures, they did it in writing, they did it in Latin, they did it in English. It was just over and over and over on the faces of these old stones.
This is my very best friend, Karen. She loves Marblehead.
Oh, yes. Oh, I got you something from Marblehead tonight. Oh, I bet I know exactly what her favorite stone in Marblehead is.
Before we get into that, one more little quick comment. Yes, death. Can you see the comments from where you are?
I can.
Okay, cool. Death used to be more of an intertwined part of the life experience. A lot of thought went into. Absolutely. I feel like there's, we have the death positive movement that's popping up a lot more regularly now. But we did stray quite far from that for a long time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Medicine allowed us to do that. When we figured out the germs made us sick, and that you should wash your hands, and that, you don't eat, we learn to preserve our food better so it doesn't make us sick. And if you get sick, maybe you should stay hydrated, or simple things like that. They didn't have antibiotics. So you get a cut and you get gangrene and you lose an arm at the very least, or lose your life at the most. So very, very things we don't even think about now. It's what's caused death to become such an unpleasant and taboo subject. I think that's why there's so many people completely rolled out, freaked out by the pandemic, because we talk about the mortality rate at such more common conversation than we have in the past, certainly in our generation.
Absolutely. And I think that I think that that's one of the things that draws me so much toward cemeteries and things like that, is to each of those headstones represents someone's entire life.
Absolutely. And it is meant to, particularly in the colonial period. It is meant for the living to stand there and read those stones and look at those images and remember their mortality. While you stand here and look at my gravestone, know that I was mortal and you are too. And some famous guy said nobody gets out of here alive. So, they knew that hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They knew it thousands of years ago.
And it's serves as a reminder too. Do what you can with what you have now. It's going to come to an end.
Absolutely.
So, to me, that whole memento mori thing is a constant. We have a finite number.
Yeah, absolutely. And we forget that they understood that you could be here 1 minute and gone the next. We've forgotten about that completely. Yeah. We think every day we're going to get up, we're going to have another normal day, and we got to go to work, we're going to do this, not knowing that an engine can fall off a plane out of the sky and crush you, or you can slip on the ice and break your neck. And
I almost did that this morning.
I did it last week, I remember. I'm still thinking about it. And if my husband hadn't been home, I might have stayed out there for a good while.
Oh my goodness. I hope you're okay.
Oh yeah. It's the perils of being out here in the cold. So it's fine. I was just being dumb. My family was visiting and I was excited that they were here. So, a bump on the head. I have a headache. I go to bed. You might have had a stroke. We don't give any of that any kind of thought anymore, because we're almost immortal, almost invincible, because medicine makes us that way.
It's something to be conquered. That's the mindset. Death is something to be
Absolutely.
conquered. So on that note, let's get into some of your art, please.
Okay.
So
I got a whole bunch of it.
Before we get into seeing all the pretty stuff,
Sure.
what was your first what first piece did you make? Like, what was your first like, what made you think, oh, I'm gonna make art out of this?
So in being in those cemeteries with my mother and grandmother all those years, I learned to rub gravestones, and I had pieces of paper and pieces of paper, years upon years upon years of paper, and 2-dimension. And what I really wanted was 3 dimensions. I wanted to take the whole thing home, and I knew it would be frowned upon if I did remove stones. So I have an art history and restoration background. So I developed a process that I could safely take into the cemetery and collect the images and bring them home to replicate. One of my other Gravestone girls, Maggie, was right there with me, and we just wanted to make a couple of our favorites. And this was actually the first guy we ever made. If I don't drop him, can you see how cute he is?
Adorable.
That is Reverend Pierpont. This is one of actually 2 of these images on his gravestone, one on each side in the borders of the stone. He is in Wakefield, Massachusetts. I can remember if he's 1709, June 2nd, 1709. And we liked him because he's so damn cute.
He is adorable.
You know, and given that time period and being a minister, so he's got the English wig going on. He's got these cute, he's got his ecclesiastical robe, and look at those hands.
So much detail.
Hands are holding the Bible, and even where his cuffs are, you can see either buttons or cufflinks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was damn cute, and just so detailed. And this was really so early on. We didn't know much about what all this imagery meant, and all we knew, he was cute and he needed to come home with us. So
he is very cute. I just posted a comment from my friend Jen. One of the best parts of my job is going to different cemeteries. Jen is
how do you do, Jen?
She is a mortician's apprentice.
Nice.
Yeah, she does good work. She does very good work.
Excellent.
What else do you have to show us?
I was going to try and take him in sort of an evolutionary point. So that idea about the immortal soul turns up on colonial New England gravestones in the wing skull.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, and we see them everywhere. They're so common. So they will look different compared because of who carved them. They're going to be different hands carving them, but they're all going to mean the same thing. So we see the wing skulls over and over and over.
I like that one has an hourglass on top, correct? Is that
yes.
Is that right?
Yep. So the idea, so the fun fact, they used skeleton bones, they used the bones to denote the idea of mortality. Like, I don't know, this guy.
That guy is fantastic.
Isn't he fun? So it's the idea that when you die, this is what's left. There are nothing but bones. And the bones are used to denote mortality on the gravestones because at the time, to carve something into stone that looked human, looked like an angel or a heavenly host would have been considered a graven image and would have been sacrilegious. So they're very literal in their interpretation. They're very religious, they're very superstitious, and they're really following the Bible to the letter. This is a period where the slightest transgression can be the difference between harps and angels and fire and brimstone. So, they're all going to look different. They're going to have wings. They're not going to have wings. Like that guy, he lost his wings a while ago.
So beautiful.
But they all mean the same thing. It was a very commonly used, very easily understood symbol about that mind your P's and Q's. These burial spaces were also typically in the middle of town. So these things are peeking out over the wall of the graveyard going,
so you're never getting away.
it is that constant puritanical finger wag. Remember your mortality. Remember you're going to die. Remember you're going to die. And you've got them, you've got families on Sundays. They're spending 3-4 hours in Sunday services. If you've got somebody in the family that can read at the end of the day after dinner, they're being read the Bible. So it's just this constant bombardment of your mortality, your behavior, your immortal soul. We have death's helpers. Death always has helpers.
Oh, wow.
Aren't they the cutest? We see them doing a bunch of different things. I only brought up this one. They're death's imps. Sometimes they have little wings, sometimes not. Sometimes I have one of them, they have little belly buttons. They are the cutest friggin' thing. And there's that hourglass again. So they're doing that march with the hourglass.
Yeah.
Watching the passage of time. Everyone was born with an hourglass. You had a certain amount of sand in that glass. And once that sand ran out, you were done. That's all there was to it. And you didn't know when that glass was going to run out. If you put wings on that hourglass, it is literally the idea that time flies.
Look at that.
There's always, this isn't rocket science. It was a picture language to speak to the population about mortality and morality. And you got the people that could read and write by like doing this quick visual cue. And they go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm supposed to remember to not dislike my neighbor's shoes as I walk by him on the street. But also to the people that couldn't read and write. It was constant visual reminder. So your friend that likes Marblehead, I know exactly what stone, and it would be the one that has these. And there's actually 2 of them on the stone. I didn't have another one ready, all done up. But this is from the Susanna Jane gravestone in Marblehead. Marblehead is this lovely little coastal Massachusetts, coastal New England community with this great, it's Old Burial Hill because they're all called Old Burial Hill, right on the water and just full of great old stuff. But that's a super well-known, amazingly intricately carved gravestone. It's got, among other things, it's got 2 bats. So it's that bat. He's at the bottom this way. And then there's another bat over here. There's a skeleton in the middle. And then there's an angel, little cherubs on the upper right-hand corners, and so much more iconography. But the idea was that skeleton was death and mortality. They have a dual relationship. And what you did here determined whether you went up to the angels or down to the underworld. And bats have been a symbol of the underworld dating back to the ancient Greeks. It is the only gravestone I am aware of, ever. Let's keep the modern stuff out of it because we can put anything we want on it. But it's the only gravestone up through the end of the 1800s that I'm aware of with bats on it. It's really, really cool.
That is very cool.
Great cemetery.
The first day you're born is the first day you're dying. Farmer Damon Baird. Yep, absolutely.
And we don't think about it. We don't talk about that.
We don't.
About my mortality. Are you kidding? No. I'm going to live forever. What else did I bring you?
Just real quick, I just wanted to let everybody know if you're looking for where you can find Gravestone Girls stuff. I see a lot of comments coming up saying, I want that, I want everything. You can find Brenda's work here on gravestonegirls.com. She's also on Facebook and on Instagram. So please check them out.
Absolutely. Everything I'm showing you tonight is just part of a small part of the collection of probably 200 images that we have. And we add to it all the time. And everything is available for online purchase, including this little cutie.
That is so cute.
Far enough so you can see the whole thing.
That's a really good size, too.
Yeah, because he was actually on the gravestone like this. And he's underneath a wing. I can never get the hang of doing this backwards for the camera. He's underneath the wing. And what he's got a couple of broken legs. He's got a broken arm.
He's had a rough time.
But you see that little sickle over his head, that little scythe right over there. So I took him a long time ago off this gravestone. And he's kind of a weird shape. and I never really knew what to do with him. And one day I was just like, okay, I got to work with this guy. I got to figure him out. And I did this. And I went, oh, yeah, he's dancing. Okay, I got it. It works. These are elements of the whole stones that are still available. They are still available out on they still exist out on the cemetery landscape. So I take an impression from the face of the original. And everybody has a hook on the back so they can hang. We also have all sorts of there's a lot of stones that have small carved images that really make great magnets. So we have a whole line of magnets. And one of the best things, or one of the things that people tell me are the best, is that everybody has a history tag.
That is the best.
So the history tag will tell you the name of the person, the name and location of the cemetery, and information about the meaning of the symbol. You know, where we think that the art and the history are equally important, so we keep them together. And I've had people buy stuff and send me an email later and say, yeah, we packed a picnic and we took a drive to this cemetery. We went to Marblehead and we found the Susanna Jane stones and we found the bats and we sat by the water and had our picnic and enjoyed the day. And yeah, that's why we do it. We want to share. We've got such good stuff we really want to share. So
it's just so beautiful. And I love that you can just take a piece of it home. It's
Indeed. You know, we're never going to run out of things. Like I said, a wing skull is a wing skull. It all means the same thing, but they're absolutely always going to look different. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we find some other more.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
There we go. Now he's straight.
So is that the top of the gravestone?
It is. So this curved part of the top of the gravestone is called the tympanum, where the art typically lives. And then there's usually a rounded shoulder on one side and a rounded shoulder on the other side. So usually the oldest ones, or some of the oldest ones, let's be clear, these with this kind of imagery start showing up the last quarter of the 1600s or so. Before then, if you've got any stones they're probably just rough hewn, they might be wooden markers. They're going to be very simple. There's the mindset of the time just doesn't have a need for this yet. Mm-hmm. And as we start really being settled in this country, and we start coming to the close of the 1600s or so, we've got a lot of towns in Massachusetts. In order to get a charter to start a town, you had to do a bunch of different things. And one of them was to build a meeting house, and another was to put in a burial ground. So when you travel around the New England area, when you find the old meeting houses or the spots where the old meeting houses were, which may have a church on them now, you're very often going to find the two in conjunction with each other. We see celestial stuff like that, moon and stars. That's really a favorite too. That's from my ancestral burial ground. That's where all that Gravestone Girls stuff got started.
That's my mom commenting that she loves that one.
Hi, Mary.
And my sister again. Her desk is going to be covered in Gravestone Girls. That's the goal. You can buy it. Check out the banner down there. You can buy it all there. We're going to take a really quick break and talk about Gravestone Camp. Can we do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool. We'll be back in a few minutes.
WLFE-DB.com, where you can find vodcast shows, podcasts, and more, like Where's My Sage, Inside the Drag Closet, Across the Pond, Paratalk Radio, Just Cindy, and more. So go check out WLFE-DB.com, where talk radio is a whole lot better. Our shows are your shows, and that there makes for a great talk radio.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Brie, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area, 410-400-9641, or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
Ted Van Son Jr. is a seasoned investigator and well-versed in the ways of paranormal investigation. He is now ready to share his ideas and unique approach with all of you. Flashlight, recorder, and comfortable shoes. Hit the ground running as you follow this easy step-by-step guide to a fun and thorough paranormal investigation, perfect for first-time and lightly seasoned investigators. Think outside the paranormal box. Learn all about the technology and techniques used back in the early days of paranormal investigation. You can find these valuable resources online at Goodreads, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Amazon. Get yours today.
Hi, I'm Jenna Grover. In the world of fashion, we get lost in the cost. Everyone wants that special piece of quality jewelry, but they can't afford it. Not on my watch. I sell handmade quality jewelry for a fraction of the price, and that includes jewelry made of sea glass, natural stone, crystal beads, glass beads, Bigfoot jewelry, and more. If you don't see what you want, email me, because I make custom jewelry too. Check out my website at gbythesea.com. Also, you can email me at jewelry@gbythesea.com.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now, back to our program.
Hi, it's me, Nix, the Psycho Mantis, coming to you live from Psychomantium 13. Join us here throughout the week for all things in audio, visual, and literary content. You can also find us on the World Wide Web at psychomantium13.com. Join Psychomantium 13 and enter the weird.
Isn't he cute?
That was amazing. That was so great.
Welcome back. So I think one of the things that really sucks me into all of this stuff is the fact that you guys are so committed to the history too. I'm loving hearing all of the little details, and I love that each piece comes with a history. I think that's just so important, and I absolutely love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's very important. If you live in this part of the country, in the Northeast, you've got these spaces all over the place, and you may or may not know what they are. If you did not grow up in this part of the country, and that's really Eastern Seaboard in general, you come from other parts of the country and you're like, what is wrong with you guys? You got skulls on your gravestones. What is up with that? What's wrong with you? All of that comes together. Everybody gets sucked in for a reason. Yeah, they like it for the art, the history, what is this? There's the morbid curiosity. And everything in between. The genealogists, everybody.
What I love about it too is that I think as being these mortal creatures that we are, we're always looking for some sort of immortality. I think that's why we like to believe in ghost stories, and ghosts are real.
Religion.
Yeah, and I think that having that tangible reminder that somebody lived and somebody died is just so important. So it's just so great. My sister needs to.
I think she's going to out fangirl everybody tonight.
I think so too.
I think I'm going to be really busy with my inbox orders tomorrow.
Well, I thought that was interesting too. When we first spoke, you said that this year has been one of your busiest.
Yeah, crazy. Who would ever have expected? Yeah. I would not have expected it at all.
Even without the markets, right?
Yeah, so many of the, and really kudos to so many of my market organizers. We've learned in 2020, we learned to do a lot of things that we never thought we'd do, or we were always like, oh, I'll get around to learning how that podcast thing goes, or how that Zoom thing goes. And what happened was we weren't given a choice. if you want to do presentations, if you want to hold an art market and you can't do it physically, well, the internet's the next best thing. And so many of my organizers just killed it by making it such a great experience to come and shop. And it would be 2 or 3 day events, and there were interviews and talks like this. There were classes.
Oh wow!
There were. It just, and it's still going on. It's still going on. Dark in Lindsay in Philadelphia runs one called Dark Zone, and she made I go live with cemetery walks. She goes live with also it's talking to different artists. We do special collections and special rollouts, and we're doing stuff to keep it fresh. And so that if you came and saw me at a virtual market last month, well, when you see me at this month's somebody else's, the Daughters of Darkness virtual market out of Salem, I'm going to look different because I'm going to have all the vendors are doing this. You have all of your regular collection, but you're always going to come up with something new, offering discounts, offering bonuses, free shipping, whatever, to entice people to shop. And they are coming. They don't have a lot to do. They want to support small businesses, and it really is. Each event is different every time because the organizers are great in how all the things they come up with to keep it engaging. It's just like being there. You just don't have to get off the couch and go out in the snow. It's fabulous.
So it kind of saves time too. You don't have to travel and do all that stuff.
Yeah. I don't have to set it up and break it down.
Break it down. That takes up a lot of time, and all that energy that goes into it. My friend Anne says she loves the heart and soul.
Everybody loves the red. I got that one with me. I got that one here. Here he is. That's one of our magnets.
I saw that on your website. That's beautiful.
Yep. And again, they all have a little history tag and little magnets. So little itty bits like this really lend themselves to being. You'll like this one. They really lend themselves to being magnets. Little guy in a coffin. If we're unclear as to what the symbol means, we've missed the point about. So we have a whole line of magnets too, with all the little symbols off the faces of the stones. So.
And that's the thing I wanted to point out too. If you're ever looking for something really interesting to give somebody, Gravestone Girls.
Thank you. It's
Absolutely.
true. We say nothing says I love you like a gravestone.
That's true. I mean, it's immortal, right? It's eternal.
People have bought them from us and given them as birthday presents, Christmas gifts, wedding gifts, divorce gifts. I've had a couple of brides that have their Halloween weddings, and we do a whole line of favors for them.
Oh, wow.
Gifts for their bridesmaids. Oh, yeah. You guys are super creative.
Didn't think of that when I got married. Gonna have to do that over again. Again, rest in peace, bank account, tax refund, credit cards.
She's dedicated.
She's committed.
Yep, she is committed. That's awesome. And you know what? I love seeing that kind of response. And really, 9 times out of 10, if I tell somebody what I do for a living, 9 times out of 10, everybody is like, "Oh my God, I love the cemetery. Let me tell you about my favorite gravestone. Let me tell you about my favorite cemetery." I might get 1 in 100 people go, "Oh my God," and they run screaming. They're like, "Death, creepy, awful, morbid. I'm out of here."
It's similar with me with the ghost.
But most of them, right? Exactly. Everybody's interested, and there seems to be this taboo about, "Oh, I can't say that I like the cemetery. Oh, goddamn, I love the cemetery." Shout it from the top. Absolutely. I couldn't do this as a full-time vocation if no one was interested. If y'all weren't interested in it, I'd be back making shoes in the corporate world, which I don't want to do.
Well, I'm happy that you're doing what you love. That's amazing. We benefit immensely from that. Can we talk about camp?
Absolutely. Gravestone camp.
This is an annual thing, right?
It is. So for the adults in the room, it is the annual conference for the Association for Gravestone Studies. The Association for Gravestone Studies has been around since the early 70s. And they are a group of all sorts of different members, that everywhere from hobbyists to scholars to carvers to restoration people to artists to teachers, historians, you name it, that is the share the love of cemeteries and gravestone at all sorts of different interests and different levels. The annual conference is probably one of the best things about the AGS. I might be biased. I don't know. They probably wouldn't like me saying that, but because they certainly are a great repository for information and all of that. But going to camp is just the best. It is the
like-minded people, right?
Yeah, and they come from all over the world to go. You know, it's always a small group. It's probably under 150 every year. But we have members in Australia and England that come very regularly. We had a lady coming from Japan. I haven't seen her in a while. But it's always the third week of June, and it takes place always on a college campus because you can be centrally located. There's the dorms, there's the food, there's easy meeting space for classes. And it's 2 days of classes and lectures, field workshops, and 2 days of getting out on the road and going out and looking at the local graveyards and gravestones. And it is
wonderful.
Awesome. Awesome. I have met some of the greatest people going to camp. So
that's awesome. Can I show the car?
Yes, absolutely. So in 2012, the thing about camp is, I think I said it moves around every year. And in 2012, we were based at Monmouth University. And we get, like I said, there's 2 days of tours. So we all pile on a bus and we get driven to all these cool sites. And this is Roseland. I wrote it down. I did write it down. Yes, I did. Roseland or Rosedale. I can never remember. Rosedale. No, I don't think that's right. It says Linden, New Jersey, but I think it was Montclair. But this is like the Susanna Jane gravestone. If you're into cemeteries and gravestones, you probably have heard about, if not seen this. This is a full 2-scale solid granite replica of a Mercedes 280 diesel, which I think is hysterical that it's a diesel.
Very specific.
Everything right down to the backside picture has it's got dual exhaust on it. It's absolutely accurate. The only thing it doesn't have is an antenna. And apparently it either had an antenna and it got broken off, or they said, we're not going to do it with the antenna because it's just going to go missing. Mm-hmm. It was made by the Rock of Ages monument makers out of Barry, Vermont. It is truly monumental. The thing is enormous. I can't even imagine what it weighs. The story goes that 240D, pardon me, I got that right down to a license plate too. Right?
Wow.
The story goes that there were 2 brothers, and I don't know if this is lore or not, but this is just the story I've heard. There were 2 brothers, and in life, one of them died, and in his life, he always wanted this car, and he didn't get it in life, so his brother commissioned this monument for him so that he could get the car that he so much desired when he was living. And you do really, yes, this is certainly a little extreme, but you do absolutely see this when people die. The surviving loved ones go all out with expensive funerals or expensive monuments or whatever it was that was missing that they wanted to do that to memorialize their loved ones. And that's just a spectacular one. That was definitely when we knew we were going to camp in New Jersey in 2012. Everybody asked, are we going to go see the car? Are we going to go see the car? Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. It's so amazing.
Show your fabulous friend next.
Oh, yeah. Oh, isn't she fabulous? So this is called a photo ceramic because it is a photo that has been chemically applied to a piece of ceramic and then mounted on the gravestone. So this is a very much a modern thing. You know, they're doing it in the 20th century, and we were doing other types of photographs on gravestones before that in the 19th century. But she is a sassy lady. Do not give her any shit. Clearly. Again, it's just another visual representation. And one of the things I really love about the modern cemeteries are these the photo ceramics, and also black granite is such a common material now. There's etchings, but I see faces. Look at this. I didn't exist. I didn't live in New Jersey. I don't know these people, but I can see what they look like. You know, I've got a real window. I think that walking through the cemetery gates is like, you know, getting in a TARDIS or going through a time travel portal, because right. Again, don't give her any shit.
No, don't.
And when she's done with you, she'll read your palm too. So many. That was so expressive. Like this, wheeler and dealer, diamonds and gold. Yeah, clearly I was in the jewelry business. You know, there was so much about their professions on there. You've got a lot of the Eastern European community, so they've got a lot of their traditional clothing. And you can really get an idea who they were, not just as individuals, but as a cultural group as well. I saw more Rolls-Royce and Mercedes emblems and Chanel emblems and Ferrari and palm readers and jewelers, just crazy amounts of them. And it's right up there because that's who they were, and that's how they, you know, if they chose their own monuments or the family chose the monuments for them, that's how they wanted that person to be remembered. And it's super clear to any visitor that comes in.
This one is one of my favorites. This is definitely more.
Yeah, this looks like
my alley.
Honestly, I will tell you that in 2012, when we were there, I didn't know much about the history in New Jersey, so I was actually surprised to find this stuff that looks like home. But in thinking about it and then learning more afterwards about the Revolutionary War and all that, and close proximity to you're still close enough to the Connecticut River Valley to be available for this material. If you're in upstate New York, in the Sleepy Hollow area, you've got this stuff. So it isn't just the New England area. This stuff, I tend to forget that in that time period, there were actually other states and other people out there at the same time. Yeah, these guys are great. This looks like home. So that's a wing sole. That's what comes after that wing skull, that death's head. It's still meant to be the idea of you've got one immortal soul, and it is not meant to be the person in the grave. It's not an autobiographical picture of the individual interred there, but great stuff. Wonderful. And going through those pictures for sending them to you, not only was I excited about re-walking that in my head, but I also remember how bloody hot it was.
Summer is hot here.
Yeah, there was camp a couple of years ago in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and nothing says hot like Alabama at the end. I didn't care. It could snow. It could be on fire. It wouldn't matter how hot, how cold. Just get me out there.
You're going.
Let me see. Well, we were supposed to go. Last year's camp was supposed to be in Austin, in Texas. Yeah, Texas in the third week of June. Really, really comfortable. But something happened. I can't remember. Something happened that made all the travel in the world stop.
just a little thing. It actually is a really tiny little thing. There's just quite a few of them.
Yeah. And so camp in Austin got pushed from last year to this year, and I just heard again that we're not going to do it yet. They will do a virtual again. Yeah. You can have your meetings virtual, which is awesome because those workshops and lectures and stuff are filled with knowledgeable people giving presentations about whatever their research topic is. And it can be very, very small and narrow in scope, or it could be very broad. It can be about archaeological or anthropological excavations. It can be about carvers. It can be about lettering. It can be about bone identification. It runs the gamut, and we start camp starts with breakfast at about 7 in the morning. We get on the buses around 8:15, 8:30, or classes start. We go until about 4. We take a break to freshen up for dinner. We have dinner, and then about 7 o'clock, the real scholarly papers are presented.
I want to go.
From 7 to 9, and then 9 o'clock is 9 to 11 is late night, where it's the same idea. People are doing presentations, but it's a much more informal atmosphere. So we are in the student center. We all put our pajamas on. We've got snacks and beverages, and I'm showing you my pictures of my gravestone trip to Italy or whatever, and much more casual. And then, everybody just, however long you want to stay up, there's somebody to stay up with you. And I have literally been up until 5 o'clock in the morning and gone to sleep for 2 hours to get up and have breakfast and do it again. There's a whole crew of us. We're the ones asleep at the back of the bus.
For the love of gravestones, right?
Correct. You can sleep when you're dead. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
So we only have a few more minutes. I cannot believe how fast this went. Do you have anything coming up? Any markets or anything?
Well, you know what? I'm in Massachusetts, and we don't do anything. We're still basically locked down. But there is a set of in-person markets that goes on every Sunday in Providence called the Providence Flea. I've got, February? I think I've got some programming coming up, some lectures and stuff like that.
And that can be found on Facebook too, right?
Yep, the calendar is on Facebook and Facebook and the website. Instagram isn't good for much other than posting pictures. And then April, the Daughters of Darkness virtual market happening out of Salem. They've also already said that they're going to be virtual again. They put on a great event. There'll be a lot of good stuff for that. And then I do see things opening up in terms of when I have libraries and other groups that they want to do walks and gravestone rubbing classes this spring and into the summer, because people really want to get out of the house. So all of that's stuff. Cool. I'm having a lot of conversations about that kind of stuff. So we're always doing something. And someday I will actually have to leave the house to go out and do it.
You will.
Okay.
How can you just do gravestone rubbings in a cemetery? Do you need permission?
Yeah. So just a couple of basics. There's all sorts of misinformation. It's bad. It's illegal. And it is absolutely up to you as the one going out to do rubbing to figure out what is allowed. There's typically no sweeping legislation that prohibits or allows something across the state. It's most often up to whoever oversees the burial ground. So you need to get permission. You need to know how to pick the right stone. You need to know what are the right materials to do the rubbings. You need to put a barrier between your stone and the working surface. And you need to clean up after you're done. It isn't rocket science. I always say that if you think about how long these things have been outdoors 24/7, a properly executed gravestone rubbing is completely inert. And one summer of lawnmowers and weed whackers are far more dangerous.
I'm sure.
When you go by stones and you see these white striations across the bottoms of them, those are weed whackers. When you go by a gravestone and there's a big chunk out of the bottom of it, that's a lawnmower.
That's a shame.
Don't talk to me that gravestone rubbing is bad, because I'm going to bust that myth and prove everybody wrong. I'm going to teach you all one at a time. It's not an issue. It's really
excellent. Not. That's good to know, because I think that you're right. There is a lot of misinformation out there.
Right.
And if you guys want more information on that, please find Brenda on Facebook.com, Gravestone Girls. Check out her Instagram. There's a lot of really cool pictures there. And definitely visit her website and buy things. You won't regret it.
You do.
You will not regret it. So we are just about out of time, as much as I hate to say it.
This was so much fun.
I know, we need another
We can
hour.
talk about Hollywood forever. Can you imagine?
Oh,
Roz Williams. Roz
Williams. I thought of it after we hung up that Roz Williams is interred at Hollywood forever, because I couldn't see him either. And I was a big Christian Death fan growing up, so it was a bummer. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us tonight. It's been so great. And we just when you sent the request to ask me to come on, I was like, I just made a new friend.
Oh, I go to Boston once a year, so I'm looking you up.
You want to know? I want to know. I'll take you around to all the great places.
Excellent. Thank you. I'll bring my sister and my mom. They're on here too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody's welcome. We all go play in the cemetery.
Well, thank you. Many, many, many thanks to Brenda for joining us this evening. Again, please check out Gravestone Girls on Facebook, Instagram, and I have a few things coming up. Don't forget to check out Meet the Author tomorrow with Robin Joan Carter. Stay tuned tonight for Where's My Sage? And if you guys check out WLFE/DB.com, we have a lot of our fun and interesting content on there. I believe the Creepy Parlor is posted. Previous episodes will be posted up on that website as well. So until next time, my creepy darlings, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and we will see you next week. Brenda, thank you again.
Thanks, Genevieve. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out tonight.
This was definitely a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang out. I got to catch up with you in a second.
Thank you for joining us on the Creepy Parlor. Join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern for another fantastic show.